Hello, silly people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and this is the start of inking season. I like to do inking season at the end of the year, and to start it, we're going to do one of the books I love, and that book is, it's a big one, long format, Kanoke by Yoshitaka Amano, also of Final Fantasy fame, and he did the illustrations for Vampire Hunter D. So this is Coffin, the art of Vampire Hunter D. And so it has ink and watercolor illustrations. And on the back, there's this nice ink illustration. But there's 74 full color and 113 ink illustrations. And I bought this, I believe, at a Barnes & Noble for $40. Yes, indeed, $40. And I love this book. So today we're going to go over some of the selected works from this book. So let's get started. Kanoke. Coffin, the art of Vampire Hunter D. And the artist is Yoshitaka Amano. Yoshitaka is one of my favorite artists, and he has done, Final Fantasy, especially like 1 through, 10? He does less work now for the Final Fantasy series, but I always love his art. He has also done Vampire Hunter D, another series that I greatly enjoy. I remember seeing the movie when I was younger, and I couldn't quite understand it, but it was fantastic. So Kanoke, but yes, I love this book. This book is fantastic. But this is like the outer shell that the book slips into, but I like having the art wherever I can see it. So I bought this at a Barnes & Noble. It is 74 pages, full color, with 113 black and white illustrations. I'll be showing both of those, even though it's inking season. And what I really want to demonstrate is that loose crispness of his black and white. So Yoshitaka Amano, the art of Vampire Hunter D. Let's get started. So this is the cover. Yoshitaka Amano, Coffin, the art of Vampire Hunter D. Okay. A very red flyleaf. And I have selected some certain works with I've kind of marked the ones I want to show. But first off, I think Hideyuki Kikuchi is the writer of Vampire Hunter D, which helps the writing helps Amano do the art for the book series, which was then also turned into animation. But let's first go to this one. This is the first one, and one of the reasons why I like Yoshitaka Amano's art. There is a lot of negative space. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, but negative space. And then he's got the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. And I like how he has simplified things, but there's also a lot of detail in certain areas. But this is Vampire Hunter D, the vampire. I can't remember if he's part vampire, part human. I think he's part human, But the world is fantastic because it has science and it has vampire, and it's very, I would say 90s sci-fi, cyberpunk fantasy thing. And I love it. I love it. So, yeah, this is just one of the images that I wanted to show off first. And next is this one, and that I like Yoshitaka Amano's looseness. All right, this one's called Flight. The last one was called Encounter. Flight. But there's a looseness to his work, right? It can be bold, like there's a lot of black, but the white, right, helps. But yeah, this is what I love about his work. Look at that. Just got strands coming off. Not totally filled in, but you know what it is, and it's great. Another one. Another black and white. The figure, but also on either side of them. Right? And then the negative space top here. I like, and he uses, looks like to me, he uses ink wash or sometimes watercolor wash when we get to that. And then does either ink, or this might be like a charcoal pencil or something on top, right? So there's a looseness and a slight unstructured, but very graphic, I see a lot of movement, right, with the lines. Let's go. Now for his watercolor work, this is, right, looks like watercolor washes, and there might be pastel on top, but also ink on top. But yeah, this is beautiful. And I think maybe gouache or white paint that he paints, because the star design on his cloak, I think, was painted after the watercolor. But yeah, that is lovely. Soft, but beautiful. Some more of his watercolor with inks. I think multimedia is what I would say. So watercolor first, watercolor washes, and then he goes in maybe with ink washes, I'm thinking, for the cloak. That could also be watercolor. But the hat, I think, is ink. There's some ink down here, and then the white is, I'm thinking, either gouache or white paint. And looks like it can be heavily applied in some, so like for the flowers. But I like that style. It's beautiful. But also, I like how he has certain areas, if you squint it down, it is one blocky shape. But then there's areas of detail. So like on the lady, we have her dress is very detailed. And it breaks up and contrasts this solid shape, but also the back part of the cloak. That is awesome. And this is called Passion. Another one, Melancholy. This to me reminds me of his Final Fantasy work. But there's that watercolor, I think wash, of various colors. And then he refines it with other colors. There's this purple, red, and whatnot. So like sepia wash, then the purples and other colors. And then he puts black ink on top. And then on top of that, there's white paint. So it's multimedia and it's lovely. This is one of my favorites. I really like this. Melancholy. It's a great image. Next one I want to show isn't this one, but it's this one. I like the dynamic, the angle, right? Is it supposed to be like this? Which makes more sense, right? This is the ground plane. Something has attacked them, cutting off this robot's legs, or robot horse, or horse, and then throwing the rider, right? That makes sense right here. But he's done it like this. I like that. That is awesome. But this is Vampire Hunter D. That's the title of this. I like that. And then having this dark here, a lot of complex details here, and then a lot of white. I really like that one. Another one for this one called On the Wind D. What I like about this is that there's a lot of bold black, right in here. And then there's areas of intricate work and a lot of negative space. I like that. I really like that. On the Wind of D. There's another one that's sort of like this further on that I like more, but I like that boldness. All right. This one is called D Armageddon. And I like this because it has all of the is here, but there's a lot of negative space. There's some watercolor wash, again, for this yellow and the purples. And this bold black, look at that. That really draws it out. But then there's areas of detail, right, for his arm, and right, around his head, his hair strands coming off, right, the scabbard of the blade itself. Right, there's this large circular dynamic, but everything's coming in towards the face. That is awesome. Here we go with the one called Glory. And I like that it's loose and it's light, but that the black ink really punches it up. His face is here, and that is the main center of interest, right? The most detail is around here, but there's also color accents, patterns, right? That bold black for the hat, black for his cape. That is fantastic. This is one of my favorites. I really like the simple, the detail. It's just overall fantastic. It's called Glory. But another one, again, there's watercolor washes, that bold black on top, areas of detail, right? That cape makes this shape, but there's detail. And look at her leg, right? Are simple, but the clothing on her is very intricate and detailed. That's awesome. His face, there's a lot of detail around his face, but his face is fairly simple. Hair coming off, the black hat, it's fantastic. And this one's called Hunter. Yeah, love it. Next. Again, the wash, what I think is watercolor. Yeah, I think it's watercolor. Watercolor wash. His face is fairly simple, but then everything around him, like that bold hat, there's design on the hat, hair strands coming off, right? His scarf bandana thingy has color and detail. It's almost like a vampire wizard or something. I like that. And this is called Wanderer. I like that one. One of my favorites, but again, another one in sort of that same style. But this one, watercolor wash. He's got the moon, the hat in black, cape in black, details around his face, while his face is fairly simple. This is called North Sea Navigator, or D North Sea Navigator, part 1. But another one, this is called D Icon Sorcerer. Again, the watercolor, and it's almost like a Napoleonic painting of a man on a horse. He has the moon behind him to frame the character. The ink washes, it's bolder down here, but not too bold and too detailed as to contrast with the figure, the horse and the figure. But that bold hat, bold cape, all in black, right? That's awesome. Icon Sorcerer. D, North Sea Navigator, part 1, which I think is the book, but also the plate that goes with the book. I like this one, in that there's a lot of brushwork in motion, right? For the background, you got some horizontal lines, some bold blacks here, and you can tell who the figure is, the hat, some of the cape, but then there's like these lines, the vertical lines, and he's looking off to his left with sword drawn. So you're like, okay, what's going on in this picture? Something's not quite right, and he knows it. But yeah, the tension, I like that. And the ink work, that's cool. I like that. North Sea Navigator, part 1. It's simple, it's action. So we got a looseness of the water, right? Oh, this one is D North Sea Navigator, part 2. But the ink is loose for the water. But then there's this motion, right, of the splash, like he's coming out of the water. The mermaid's here, or what we think is a mermaid. She might be a monster. It's probably a monster, because he has a sword drawn. All right, I like the motion of this one. That splash. All right, you can even hear sound effects. Yeah, that's I like that one. There's another one quite like this one. If I can find it, I'll put it here. But as we move on, there we go. This one and then the next one, I like this one because, again, simple around it, but that bold cape, all in black, hat in black, most of the details around his face and in his arm. I like that one. This one's called Stripe, but mostly this is one of my favorites. Seated Swordsman, and that it's simple. It also implies something in a story, but watercolor wash in yellow, and that brings out his face. His face is white, so it means he washed all of this, but left his face white. There's some other areas that are white, and then put the black, probably ink wash, on top of that for his clothing. Another pass for his boots, because that's in black, hat's in black, and the detail is around the face, right? Hair strands, the scarf, but he's also drawing, either he's drawing his sword or he's putting his sword back in its sheath. So something has either just happened or is about to happen, and he's seated in this repose pose, but he might get ready to do something. Like somebody might be able, he's going to take somebody on, or he's resting after he has taken somebody on. And I really like that one. Simple, but incredible. And then the color for the inside of the cape, that's fantastic. I think this might be my favorite, but that's a bold claim. But yeah, it might be my favorite, this one. Seated Swordsman. Next up is this. D, North Sea Navigator to Arctic Waters. And this one, I like that this one kind of feels to me iconic in a way, because it has all of that watercolor wash, and then on top of that, he's layered maybe pastel, maybe some more watercolor in different colors. There's some creatures undefined in the background, and it's like he's walking somewhere, but that ink, right, makes him stand out because he's the boldest thing in this whole image. And again, his face is fairly simple, but there's detail around his face, right? While his cape is simple. Yeah, I really like that one. Okay, this one is a lot like that other one, just with some added bits. This one's called D Nocturne, and it's slightly off, right? There's lines, there's strong lines, and his body is also one of those like this and this. This. Also with the cape, right? That is awesome. I like how half of his face is hidden. And again, detail. Yeah, it's delicate but bold. I like that. And also on this page, so that was D Nocturne. This is Swordsman in Sable. But I like there's watercolor wash underneath, and then on top of that, I think ink wash, and then some bolder inks. But the cape isn't just black, but there's this purple blue for the cape. Again, his face was left out, so it's the palest thing pretty much and there's the most detail around here. But there's also detail here, which contrasts with this bold cape. Swordsman in Sable. Awesome. For this one, it's called Fallen Angel. Well, D Fallen Angel 1. And I just like the atmosphere of this one. So we have the characters. We have what looks like to me a spooky castle or some kind of wall thing. You got the horse, you got the moon, very bold black. And then, like, wouldn't call it a mess of black, but there's energy here. All right, it's not all uniform, and I don't know exactly what's going on, but that's awesome. I like the feel of this. And the characters are rendered very loosely. Right? This guy is just barely a few lines in his cape. Yeah, I like that one. And that was D, Fallen Angel. All right. So now we're getting into two that I like for very different reasons. This one, which is D, Nocturne, I like because, again, I think there's watercolor wash. There's like a sepia or a light yellowish brown. And then on top of that, he adds colors. Think watercolor, a lot of the goldish or orangey yellow. And then on top of that is the black. And that black is bold. And it makes his face pop out. Again, his face is really simple. Right? That's super simple. But the hair and the details all around him makes that face pop out. And that bold simplicity of the negative black space. I really like that one. But in contrast to this, D, Nocturne, is the Fell Blade. And I like this because the character it feels simple. And that there's watercolor wash, there's purple, and some yellow. And then ink washes and ink on top. So I think the cape is ink wash. And then he came in again with some more ink for certain parts of his armor and his hat. And then there's a lot of this white negative space that makes this character pop. It's like he's either dancing, sword fighting. That is cool. Right? The looseness, the gestural application of watercolor and ink, top notch. The Fell Blade, in contrast to D, Nocturne. Right? That is awesome. I love that. Now this one is a lot like that mermaid fight earlier in ink. And I'll probably put these back to back. But this one is in watercolor. And this one has that watercolor blue. Right? Again, that splash and that feeling of going out of the water into the sky. You got the mermaid. You got D. Very little ink on this one though. And there's some ink wash on his hat and his cape. But most of it is, I think, just blue. There might be some pastel maybe. It looks like there was something added after the fact. And I think it's pastel, like for the waves. But yeah, I like the color. I like the motion, the chaos, the looseness. Yeah. D, Seas Navigator, North Sea Navigator is the title of this one. All right, this one is a special case, and that it is what I think is either chalk or Conti, maybe a crease pencil, or maybe just a dark pencil on a certain type of paper with some tooth. But anyways, I like this one because it is, again, simplified face. Very simple. But then there's a lot of detail pretty much everywhere else. The hat's maybe sort of simple. But yeah, that's incredible. Next is this. This is D, Fallen Angel. And I like the action of this. It's D. You can tell by his costuming, the hat, the cape, sword drawn. And there are these other characters, which I see two. Maybe this is their boat. They've been attacked by this water creature, and they're fighting it off. But that's awesome. Right? That's because you can tell what it is. There's a lot of negative space for the sky. The water is simple, but you can tell that it's water, and that this creature is coming out of it and knocking what I think is their boat. It's loose. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of structure to it, but I can tell what it is. I like that. Really like it. Okay. Next up, D, Fallen Angel. And D, Fallen Angel, I like this one because there's a lot of little, small, random bits. There are areas of larger, black, but everything feels like it's in motion. And if we zoom in on it, there's a lot of detail and a lot of bit work. So this guy is cutting, I guess, this lady, dude, monster, I'm not exactly sure, cutting into them. Yeah, but I like the motion, the chaos of it, the looseness of it. I'm not exactly sure who these people are or what exactly they're doing, but you know, I gather enough from it and I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. D, Fallen Angel. So these two, this is Twin Shadow Warrior, or D, Twin Shadow Warrior. I like that it kind of, you're implying a story. D on his horse is going somewhere, and there's these people with horses and spears. I think this guy might have a gun. I'm not sure what this is. And the background is kind of spooky. It's boldly black, but these trees don't have any really leaves on them, and they're spooky looking. Oh, there's a companion here. There's another person on a horse. Yeah, Twin Shadow Warrior. D, Twin Shadow Warrior. I like that. But in contrast to that is this one, where there's this bold upper, a character which we could think is the villain because D's here, and D is the good guy. So this guy must be the bad guy. And there's also this woman. I don't even know what this is. And there's another person here. And then the moon is watching all of this happen in a field of grass. Right, I like that. I like the storytelling of this. Right, that there's this bold night sky, the moon, the villain, maybe sacrificing a lady with his second in command. D is here to help, hopefully. And that is D, Fallen Angel 4. I like that one. The drama. This is D, Twin Shadow Warrior 1. And for this, it satisfies my chaotic nature, I guess. Right? D is here. But then there's like smoke or fog going across him. Maybe it's a nighttime scene. It could be day, I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of ink, but it's not, simple, bold, flat ink. It looks like everything has some sort of motion, some sort of line, right? Giving it some kind of dynamic action. Once half of his face is shaded, the most detail is about here. Yeah, I like that one. D, Twin Shadow Warrior. All right, D, Twin Shadow Warrior. This is the last one. And it has what I liked about Amano's art. And there's a wash of, I'm thinking watercolor. Very light, very pale. But it makes his face pop. Because his face is the lightest thing here. And then there's this bold black in certain areas, like his hat and his cape. Watercolor for the detail of that cape. His hair is flowing, and there's areas of detail, especially around here. Yeah. Negative space. Yeah, pretty much what epitomizes what I like about Amano's art. It is incredible. So, once again, this is Yoshitaka Amano, Coffin, The Art of Vampire Hunter D. And this is one of the books that I thoroughly enjoy. And this will kick off inking season. And so that was Yoshitaka Amano, Coffin, The Art of Vampire Hunter D. One of the books that I absolutely love. I mean, these inks, man, they are fantastic. And yes, I bought it at Barnes & Noble for $40. And I look at this as often as I can, especially in inking season. So thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Power to all the creators. Take care and keep shining. See you on the next video.